Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Whiskey Congress is back in session, and Steve and I are together in the Cleveland studio. The increasingly mobile Stephen.
Getting better.
And I should say that the last episode, Steve kind of did a chest bump, fist bump with Ben about me and my Second Amendment coming around. He also sent me a trash-talking email yesterday about our previous discussion on concealed carry.
It was a text.
Oh, sorry. What did I say? Call?
Email.
Email. I said email? Okay. All right. I meant a text. Yes. 8 days. Anyway, so the trash talking continues in that regard. And, I'm sure Ben will listen to this and chime back in. But I was trying to go to sleep, but I wake up to a text from Steve in our group text saying, you should have a holster on your pocket carry gun, which I, in fact, do. Well, first of all, how you doing?
Good. And I don't think you fully get the full context of that sort of jab a little bit, because you should have a holster if you're going to carry a gun in your pocket.
Which I do.
But, okay, that's great. But then now you're faced with a situation where you need to draw a gun. Chances are you don't have a ton of time. So you now need to fish this gun out of your pocket, take it out of the holster,
No.
and for you need to load it.
All right, that's bullshit.
You don't keep one in the chamber.
I absolutely do when I'm carrying.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't keep one in my nightstand chamber because I don't want to. Never mind. But no, when I'm carrying, there's one in the chamber. Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
All right. So these are background discussions.
I think it's a very forward discussion, right?
Right.
I mean,
it's a throwback discussion,
no, it's a forward discussion because I mean it's topical, right? I mean, I think Second Amendment rights, carrying a gun, all those sort of things are things that we regularly talk about on the show. The point that I'm trying to make is that I think that you're not I think by carrying in the pocket, even if you carry it with a holster. Right, so if you're carrying it in your pocket without a holster, that's just your own safety issue, and chances are you're going to shoot yourself in the leg. That's not a guess.
Not to mention jam lint and stuff up the barrel.
There's any number of issues that present that way.
That's why I have a holster.
But I mean, and you have this very sort of triumphant ring to your voice, but this isn't a win, right? Because now, face an emergency situation, you have to draw that gun,
yes.
But it's in your pocket and in a holster, so now you have to get it out of your pocket, and you have to get it.
The holster makes an easy draw. The holster doesn't have to come with it. In fact, I don't want it.
Okay, I mean, here's the problem, though, right? So you do this, and so you're losing, right? So you're doing the very well. All right, we'll talk about this another time.
No, I'm not losing.
But
I don't.
You are losing. There's not. There's
to hear this.
Well, there's plenty. You know who wants to hear this, right? Because anyone who actually carries a gun, right, an everyday carry that has any sort of semblance of safety is screaming that they agree with me right now, and they're screaming at you what the fuck are you doing, right? Don't carry a gun in your pocket. Get a holster, carry it on your belt. I don't care if you appendix carry. I'm not too prone to shooting my dick off, so I carry at 3 o'clock or whatever. But come on, right? Was trying to be nice about it, was trying to joke about it. Stop carrying a gun in your fucking pocket. I don't care if you have a fucking holster. Get a real holster, put it on your belt, practice drawing from it if you're serious about carrying and defending yourself. Otherwise, you're posing a danger to yourself and other people around you when you do that.
I don't agree that I'm adding danger any more than having a holster carry. Again, I'm not going to... All right.
Make your argument.
What's that?
Make a sound argument.
All right. So first of all, the point that I don't keep around in the chamber when I'm carrying is
okay.
correct.
Fine.
So that's fine. That's aside. Getting that gun out of my pocket and into shooting position is, I don't know how to. Maybe we should go to a range and do it'll be frowned upon at most ranges.
We can go to an outdoor range. We go to one out in Ashland.
Right. See who gets a shot off
my guy Mike out in Ashland doesn't give a fuck. My guy Mike in Ashland may make us do it under gunpoint. So,
well, that's not an appealing reason for us to do that.
This is out there by where that giant Confederate flag is. So,
oh, great, yeah. Well, then I'll definitely want a gun.
It's not that far.
All right. Well, the problem is that there's a place with giant Confederate flags not that far from here.
Right.
Different discussion. But yeah, I would be open.
I think it's worthwhile because look, it's just like if you're just being objective, right? If we're just being objective, and you're thinking about a situation where, and here's my issue, right? I've been in situations where I've had to draw my gun in the not so distant past, and because of where and how I carry, it made a difference in terms of time in my decision making because I practice drawing from my in the waistband holster on a consistent basis. Like I've got a setup in my basement, I've got a target, I've got the Mantis X system which goes onto my gun that attaches, right? And then you can put it in a different spot so that it still has the same effect. For those of you who don't know, I bought an adapter that goes on the end of my magazine, right? Like, so you put this thing on the end of your magazine and you can draw from the holster, wherever you put your holster, you can just, hold your gun freestyle open. But it allows me to practice dry firing, but it also allows me to get that muscle memory of pulling that gun from the position where I hold it on a consistent basis and then practice firing. And then it shows me, hey, you're slapping the trigger, or hey, you're anticipating your trigger pull. So I get used to correcting that and then shooting the proper way, but I do it on a consistent basis so that when I'm in an actual real life situation where I have to draw my gun, it's muscle memory and I'm doing all the things right. What I'm saying is it's a lot easier to practice that from a holster position, whether it's appendix carry or whether you carry on the side, than it is to get a consistent sort of setup with your gun in a holster in a pocket, especially with a smaller gun. I'm not I know I'm kind of being a dick about it, but I think that it's right in this particular instance because we're actually talking about the difference between life and death.
Fair. And my only argument is that I don't have to get clothes out of the way. I don't have to get anything out of the way. It's out. It's there. I would be. I do want to not bore our audience with this.
I don't know if this is so boring.
All right. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
I think it's riveting.
All right. Well, I'd be willing to do some kind of a safe experiment in terms of, draw obviously with unloaded weapons in a controlled environment.
Yeah, I mean,
we
go to a range and we do it, but and look, it's a safe place. I mean, my black ass goes out there, and I'm perfectly safe. So I think that the two of us out there would be fine.
I would do it.
But
I've shot in more rednecky places than that. I'm sure. I lived in West Virginia for 5 years.
Right.
In South Carolina.
So
and North Carolina,
speaking of attacks and protecting private property, you've got these attacks on Tesla dealerships. And
on vehicles themselves.
Right, and on Tesla. Listen, I don't think there's much of an argument that supports this. It's anyone that's going out and, attacking and destroying, people's property, their cars that they purchased, or they're going to Tesla dealerships and attacking the employees and attacking the cars that are there, like that. There's no excuse for it. It's not acceptable. I don't care how upset you are with Elon Musk, even if you believe that Elon Musk is tearing our democracy down and ripping our Constitution apart. Okay, fine.
Yeah, I agree.
I fully agree with you, but the way you're not going to get him to stop by attacking the Tesla dealerships. Like if you want to go attack somebody, then go directly at him and Trump. Go attack them, right? Attacking the Tesla dealership. Well, that's really a coward ass move.
I'm on board with that. Well, so I've got a few things to say about this. One, attacking private property and vandalizing is not smart in any way, shape, or form. Now, I do have other thoughts in terms of how Trump has responded to this, but if you own a Tesla and you bought it pre-Elon Musk, and now you're embarrassed that you have a Tesla that is associated with that guy, put a "fuck Elon Musk" bumper sticker on the front and back of your car and keep it. I've heard all these stories about guys it was all guys in this case, the stories I heard, selling their Teslas at losing a whole bunch of money because they didn't want to be associated with it. Well, if you like your car, keep your car. taking a personal financial hit to make a political statement is absolutely your right to do, but it's kind of stupid. If you want to make a political statement, like I said, slap a sticker on the front emblem and back emblem that says, FEM, and go about your business. Let me go one step further, please. When you commit acts of vandalism against individuals, you're just hurting people you don't know because they have something you don't like. I've been saying vote with your dollar every time I can. Buy one, don't buy one. But to do damage to other people's property, whether it's a business or an individual, is just a scumbag move. I yield.
We agree about attacking the dealerships. That's not okay. Now, the people selling them, this is a little bit different than, selling a jersey or, burning your Nike shorts or whatever. And here's why. If you have a whole bunch of people who dump their Teslas back into the market and they're willing to cut how much they sell for, right, then that depresses the market on Teslas, right? That means that, right, and you're going to get to a point where the dealerships aren't going to be able to sell the new ones because if someone wants one, they can go buy one on the street a hell of a lot cheaper. And because there's so many on the street, that those become cheaper, right? So the resale value of Teslas plummet, right? Then you have the direct impact to the dealerships because people aren't going to the dealerships, which means the Tesla stock starts to go down, starts to plummet, which we're seeing.
Continues to go
down.
Right,
continues to go down because people aren't buying them. And the few people, not the few, but the people out there who want them, there's an overabundance. It's basic economics, right? This is a different conversation than the people who were busting up their Keurigs, right? Or I can't even remember why people were mad at Keurig, and most of the people who were mad at Keurig can't remember why. Or the people burning their jerseys.
I think Keurig stopped advertising on Hannity's show.
Right.
That's what it was, I think. But I don't remember why, but that was, they stopped doing it.
But the point being, right, is that I think that there's a difference between what's going on with Tesla, right, in terms of people selling them.
Well, and your point is exacerbated or more empowered by the fact that if you sell a used Tesla, you're possibly stopping someone from buying a new one. If you destroy your Keurig, you're probably going to buy a new one in 6 months when you want one again. So you're actually helping the company by destroying a product you've already bought. And I mean, we've had that argument 100 times. We always talk about in straight out of Compton when they run the roller compactor over all the CDs from NWA, and they're on the bus going, "You already paid for them. We don't give a fuck."
Right.
In fact, thank you. So you're correct that there is an economic impact to dumping your Tesla on the market at a reduced price compared to vandalizing. But I still think people should be willing just to say, I bought this thing because I wanted it. The money that was going to Elon Musk has been sent to him. And but again, your point is valid. There's a difference between destructive protesting and just saying, I'm dumping this thing, and the economic impact is directly inversely proportional, if I can say those words.
I mean, look, no. Don't blow your own car up, right? That's people burn Nike jerseys, right. So but no one's doing that, right? We do have people attacking the dealerships, which is wrong. You should stop doing that. That shouldn't be done. That's not having the impact that you think it is, and it's hurting you more than it's hurting Elon Musk. And in fact, it helps Elon Musk because Musk and Trump use it for PR to say, look, we're just innocent victims. Right? The radical left is crazy. We're victims. We're trying to make America great, and they're attacking us as domestic terrorists, right? So that's where, the line is drawn when you start to, exact violence on other people because of your displeasure, right? And you're not exacting that violence on the actual people causing it, right? The people who work at Tesla, they didn't sign up for what Elon Musk is doing now. They got a job there because they wanted to work at, what they thought was a cool company, and it was a job, whatever their reason was behind it. But I highly doubt that any of those people signed up to work at Tesla because they agreed with Elon Musk's political views right down the party line. And so attacking them and attacking the cars and the people who are there, right, just because they're looking at cars or whatever, is not okay.
It's not okay, and I do want to say, all right, we are on the same page, I think, completely across the board here. If there's one thing that triggers me, if there's one thing that triggers you, it's bringing up Cybertrucks, because you stayed up late the night of the introduction of the Cybertruck.
Yeah, I just hate them.
And so today I was driving behind one while I was thinking about what we were talking about on the show, and they look worse from behind than they do from straight on. But one thing that sets me off is people diminishing the relevance of January 6, 2021. And Trump said that the people who are, attacking Tesla dealerships should be charged as domestic terrorists. That's a huge overreach. And he said something to the effect of, you didn't see anything like this on January 6th, and I did not quickly draw my 380 out of my pocket and shoot my fucking TV. It wasn't in my pocket at the time. I was at home. But
So why say that?
Because it was funny, I thought. Anyway, when people diminish January 6th, I lose my shit. You've seen me do it multiple times on the show. No, you're right. It's nothing like January 6th, scumbag. The attack of January 6th was an attack on our democracy that you applauded, you've defended, you've fucking pardoned the people convicted for it, and comparing those two just sends me off the fucking rails. Well, there should be accountability. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Look, I mean, we're beyond the point of people being held accountable for that, right? I mean,
yeah,
you're President of the United States.
If I stop yelling about it, people will stop listening.
I'm not. It's not that I'm saying that you should stop yelling about it, but the reality is that we could want accountability for it, but I mean, the one thing Trump has proven with our government is that there's not much bite behind all those rules and regulations and I forget what the word I'm looking for, or traditions, right? Like we've got these traditions, we've got these rules and regulations, right? Like because there's not a rule that Trump has to show his taxes, and we prove that there's no rule. It's just something that is tradition, that's traditionally done.
Right.
So what happens when you don't do it? What we've learned is nothing. Right? Like now they're even at a point where they're just ignoring court orders from lower level judges, right? And it's like, oh, well, you can't do that. Why? Because the rules say so. Okay, so what are you going to do to me if the rules say so? Well, because you're the president of the United States, we have to take it to 3 different committees, and then we have to bring in special prosecutors, for all of them to say they can't do anything, right? So nothing. So there's really no teeth behind any of this shit at that level for them, right? And that's the most frustrating part, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. But, well, not even wholeheartedly, because, look, if people are attacking car dealerships, right? Let's say it wasn't Tesla. Let's say there were people just attacking the Ganley Ford dealerships or the Serpentini dealerships, right? And these are all local large
I was going to say, let's
car dealers. But the point is that what if people were attacking those because they thought their commercials were cheesy, right? Or because they thought that their prices were too high. I actually don't have an issue with the whole domestic terrorism thing. Where my issue comes in with all this is I can make correlations and direct comparisons to what happened on January 6th when you compare it to what's going on at these Tesla dealerships. Now you could say, oh, well, there weren't cars being blown up, right? Like, okay, cars weren't being blown up, but you still had people who rushed private property, who broke windows, who literally smeared shit on the walls, who stole documents, who did all, that in and of itself is terrorism, folks.
Okay, but they didn't beat up police officers as far as I know.
They did beat up police officers.
Okay, then.
Right?
All right.
On January 6th?
Oh, no, January 6th they definitely did. Right. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the Tesla dealerships.
We've got video of it.
I thought you were talking about the Tesla dealerships. I'm like,
okay, but
the Tesla vandals are not.
The Tesla vandals aren't doing that, but still, you literally have these cars that are basically walking bombs anyway, that they're blowing up, right, setting on fire, right, putting everybody there at risk, right? People who have nothing to do with this. It incites what? Fear. Another word for fear is terror, right? Like you go blowing up we've seen regular cars blow up. Not great, right? These cars with these, ion batteries and all that other shit, we probably don't want a whole bunch of them blowing up on a consistent basis.
Okay, I think we're kind of going off the rails.
No, we're not going off the rails. What I'm saying is, fuck it, yeah, call them domestic terrorists. But that isn't that much different than what happened on January 6th. Right? Those people came in and terrorized.
To me,
right?
January 6th is so many levels worse.
It's not, well, I'm not going to say it's so many levels worse because, listen, what I'm saying is these people, you're putting people's lives in danger when you start blowing fucking cars up, okay? Like, there was a whole fucking period where, everybody was making car bomb jokes because of what was happening in Ireland, right?
Yeah.
Cars blowing up is very fucking dangerous, right?
Sure.
So I don't have an issue with the Tesla. If you're terrorizing car dealerships and blowing cars up, I don't care how we classify you, right? Like, you're a dangerous society, get rid of you. What I'm saying is those people on January 6th were equally as dangerous.
I'm saying
right, we watched them
dangerous.
beat police to the point where some of them died after the fact, or it was so bad that they committed suicide after the fact. They attacked them with flagpoles.
Yes.
They overran police, right? They broke into federal government property.
For the purposes of
impacting our democracy.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, if you're going to look at the people who are blowing up Tesla dealerships, Donald Trump, if you're looking at people who are blowing up Tesla dealerships and calling them domestic terrorists, then you should be looking at these people on January 6th and doing the same thing. But we know that you're full of shit and you're a hypocrite and you're a liar.
And you pardon them.
Right. So you went so far as to pardon those people. Right? So how the fuck can I take you seriously with this whole Tesla thing, right, when I see what you do for the people who you agree with? When they literally come out to destroy us.
I thought you were arguing with me. You're just adding on. So what can be done? Here's my concern. Again, you know more about the legal aspects of this than I do. But so if
let me just stop you right there. No.
Terrorism. I want to talk about courts.
I know you do. So let me stop you. We are in unprecedented territory. There's not a lawyer. There's not a judge. There's not a scholar out there who can actually give you the what happens next. Based off of legal precedent, because there's no precedent for what's happening right now, right? People are getting paid at CNN right now to talk about this shit like they know what the fuck is going on, but they do not. We are in a constitutional crisis right now. We are in a situation where our country is falling, not at risk of, but is falling right in front of our very eyes. The solution to this problem is not one that I actually want to put out on the air. But the solution to this problem isn't handled in the courts. The solution to this problem also isn't handled in the voting booth because they're at a point now where I could see them calling martial law. I could see them impacting the elections in a way that people are just flat out prevented from voting, right? Like we are in a very dangerous point in time watching other countries fall and understanding history. We're at a very dangerous point, and the solution to this problem is a very ugly, messy one.
Okay, where I was going to go is the people who would have to step in to take these actions are so up Trump's ass that it really doesn't matter. The DOJ is completely up Trump's ass.
There's nobody there.
The FBI completely up Trump's ass. I was going to ask what are the other options?
The only other option is for someone. Right, and you would need multiple efforts here. I don't know where it would come from. Maybe a Pam Bondi, right, who's your attorney general, or maybe a combination of Bondi and Kash Patel or something like you would need basically a revolt within his administration. You would need them to wake up and say, I don't know what happened the last couple of years, but man, way wrong path. Now we're going to level set. But it can't be just one because he's going to go on the attack, right, and bury that one person. It would have to be a multiple-tiered effort within his administration to recognize what the damage that they're causing and try to reverse it.
And have the political courage to do it. I mean, we've talked about...
and recognize, look, if you do it, your life is at risk. Not your political career. Your life is at risk. Yep. And so there's not a single person in that administration that I think has that courage, has that gumption, has those balls or ovaries or whatever you want to say. There's not one. They are all weak. Even the ones who vehemently disagree, I think, are weak and have no spine. And I think we're fucked.
I mean, I really wish I could push back on that, because even the people who in the past have been anti-Trump, up to and including the vice president, have now rolled over and completely conceded. I don't know if we talked about it on air or if we talked about it having lunch, but my only hope was that, Trump gets kicked out and Marco Rubio comes in and he regains his balls.
Stop.
I know.
Stop.
I know. Hey, look, I give up.
I don't know why you would go to the weakest, most spineless, sniveling little bitch of all of them.
Is he more of a spineless, snivelly bitch than J.D. Vance?
I would, listen, I'm at a point now where I'm saying who wins in an actual fucking fist fight. I take J.D. Vance over fucking Marco Rubio. That dude is a fucking papier-mâché piece of shit. Yeah,
I'm not.
Trump. The way that Trump
defending him is hilarious.
And somewhere, and I don't know who's worse, Rubio or Cruz, right? They're both the same level of just opposite of masculine, right? But I guess Cruz has probably got a little bit more, behind him, maybe because he's a little bigger. I don't know. But to me, Rubio is just the ultimate cunt, bitch. Cruz is not far behind. All these guys, they're the same guy, right? They're the same sniveling, spineless, weak guy. Every single one of them. Stephen Miller, Ted Cruz.
So Stephen Miller has a subtle level of evil behind him.
Okay,
no, that's a big deal to me, though.
But
Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon, they have agendas, and they've got...
They do. They've got agendas, and they've got all the words behind them, but they're all the same person.
I went viral for you there.
It's just... And again, the whole... Well, what can be done about this? Unless any of those people... Men or women.
Several of those people simultaneously.
Like you need a group of them to grow, for their balls to drop, their ovaries to pop, grow a spine, and stand up and be willing to take the heat and full force of what would come when MAGA turns on them. And none of them are going to do it. And so this doesn't end well for us.
We need an Operation Valkyrie. We need the internal folks the internal generals to say, we swore an oath to the Constitution. What this guy's doing is fucking crazy. We're stopping it. Now, if you know what Valkyrie was, I know you do, but it was a group of people who, inside Nazi Germany, said, we need to overthrow Hitler. They were going to use violence. It didn't end well for them. But, we need that kind of thing where an internal group that are, in theory, aligned with Trump, need to say enough is enough. I hope they choose the 25th Amendment as a way to handle that, rather than the Valkyrie approach. But you're right. It's desperate times, and
we're at a point where they're literally saying that judges can't overturn what the executive branch says. So
So judges basically are irrelevant.
Right.
Now.
So judges are irrelevant. So if you're going to use the 25th Amendment, how is that going to work? Because they're just going to ignore it. We invoked the 25th Amendment. I disagree. I'm fine.
Well, it would take literally like the senior brass of the military to say, you are not competent. You are a threat to the Constitution, to which we swore an oath, and we are seizing. My God, I'm saying something as ugly as you were trying not to say.
Yours is still a lot better than what I was going to say. So trust me, that's a way better scenario than mine.
I'm pretty sure I know where you're going. And on this topic, and this is something I really want to tap dance around a little bit, but there was a 43-year-old federal judge named Jessica Aber, or Aber, and she was found dead in her home this morning, non-responsive.
Where at?
Virginia, Alexandria, I believe. Okay. And she was a prosecutor against lots of really bad folks. MS-13.
What's her background?
She was appointed by Biden to be the chief prosecutor for that district of Virginia. She served under Biden when Trump was inaugurated. She resigned. Whether she resigned under pressure or out of conscience, I don't know. And I don't know anything about her cause of death other than it makes me really nervous when federal judges...
So was she a judge or a prosecutor?
She was a judge at the time she was murdered. She was originally appointed as a prosecutor.
Okay.
again, she resigned. She had been a judge that oversaw cases related to Russian corruption, MS-13.
So when did she? So she resigned what? Last November, December, something like that.
I think in January. I think after
January?
inauguration. Again, I think she resigned when she knew that when it was official. And again, what her motivation was, I don't know. Her cause of death has not been released. I don't want to speculate. I want to project.
I mean, it's tricky, right? I mean, if you're talking about a federal
I
judge,
also don't want to be disrespectful to the deceased and her family, by the way.
well, I think we're okay. If someone from her family does listen,
Well, whatever. I do
But
want to respect.
point being, the issue is whether she was a federal judge or a prosecutor, and if that was her path, prosecutor to judge.
That is correct.
That is a person who has probably made a lot of enemies by putting people in jail, right? So it is really, it's a very touchy situation. You can't speculate as to how or why. And the description of the passing was, she was found non-responsive. That could mean any and a lot of things, right? Like that's them not wanting to say much, but having to say something. People's minds are going to go a lot of places. You said some buzzwords. She was appointed by Biden. She, looked into,
Resigned.
before you even get to the fact that she resigned, if she dealt with working against Trump on Russian collusion, if she has dealt with, any sort of Trump-related matters, people are automatically going to raise an eyebrow, right?
Yeah.
But if we know that, she worked on some MS-13 cases, that's going to raise an eyebrow, right? Looking into Trump-Russian collusion, she could have ruffled some Russian feathers, right? So there's a whole lot of different angles that they have to look at,
Sure.
to figure out what happened here, and assuming that someone killed her. Right?
Right.
I mean, you're
It
talking
could be
about somebody,
suicide,
like, listen,
it could be natural causes.
everything that I said, it could, suicide, yes, is maybe a possibility, but I don't know her, and so you don't want to put that on someone. But, the stress of doing that, working at that level of intensity, with that level of sort of weight on your shoulders, dealing with those types of cases, dealing with national security, dealing with the state of the democracy, Supreme Court level, presidents of the United States, senators, governors, right? Constantly being under pressure in that sort of situation. Could be a heart attack, could be a stroke, so,
Sure. Again, right.
it's
right.
really hard to say without information, but she made a lot of enemies. She was under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. We know she resigned from her job. She could have resigned from her job for health reasons.
Sure.
There's just a lot more questions than answers.
Well, we don't know anything. I want to get that name out there because it's a scary thing. It could be completely what I'm saying right now could be make me look stupid in 2 days. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
it's just like
when a
it's something people gotta
43-year-old
look
judge
into.
is suddenly who was very prominent, it raises alarm bells for me. And you were talking about, we're in a constitutional crisis. Using someone like that as a canary in a coal mine kind of situation would not be out of question for some of the people involved in our government and other governments with access to grind. Again, not wanting to say things as if they're fact, but that's what I'm thinking, and I don't think I sound crazy.
Look, I'm not thinking anything right now because again, there's just too many sort of possibilities and loose ends, and I don't know enough about the situation to just start to speculate.
Right,
and here's why: because the direction where you're going, right? On the one hand, I think we're there at that point, but the direction where you're going is the possibility of the government being involved in killing a judge. Now, it's not unheard of, and I'm sure everybody's...
With all the JFK stuff getting released, you've got my conspiracy spidey sense tingling, but if you don't know that Trump released... not you, but if people don't know that Trump released a whole bunch of JFK documentation, it's all a smokescreen to distract us, but a bunch of stuff to get out there. Don't worry, I won't go down the road.
Just the issue with this is I just don't know enough. Way too cloudy and way too sensitive to really, I think, start to speculate. And, what you're suggesting, right, is that, again, president, administration, someone related to the close near to the president that's got a reason, got an axe to grind, took out a federal judge. Listen, they make movies about this, and those movies are really intense, and this is not a movie. So,
right.
So, just with that, right, I think it makes sense for us to probably leave this be, right?
But not to forget it.
Listen, not to forget it, but the name is out there. We've said it. Jessica Aber. People listening have heard it, and everybody involved. We all just keep an eye out on it.
Keep an eye out.
See where it goes.
Absolutely. All right. I want to throw out something positive, because I'm typically Mr. Positivity. But a biotech company called Bluebird Bio has designed a novel gene-based therapy that has apparently cured a 21-year-old man of sickle cell anemia. And as someone, I think you told the story on our show, when you went to Santa Fe, you went up into the mountains and suddenly everything was cramping, and some guy, luckily, saw you and said, "Hey, you're experiencing this, aren't you?"
Dude, first of all, just so funny because the dude was a scientist at the Los Alamos National Lab, and it was very socially awkward, right? Kind of what you would expect for someone who's locked away in a national lab that was allowed outside to take a walk in a park. But like he saw me struggling breathing and sort of the confusion on my face as to, 3 days ago I ran, a 9-minute mile, and now all of a sudden, walking 100 yards, I feel like I'm going to pass out, right? And the guy was nice enough, but he literally was just like, hypoxia. And I'm like, what? And he's just like, you're not from around here. No, I am not. He's like, yeah, you're having trouble breathing, so you probably need oxygen. You got sickle cell? No, I got the sickle cell trait. Yep, see, that's your problem. You probably want to go talk to those EMS guys over there. They got oxygen. Have a nice day. Enjoy Los Alamos. And then he just walked away. And that was a real conversation. But to your point, like the sickle cell thing, I when I read it, when I saw that you wrote it down, it actually kind of jarred me a little bit. And the reason why is that experience for me in New Mexico was pretty awful and scary because I literally I was like struggling to breathe. My chest literally felt like someone had grabbed my heart and was squeezing. Every muscle in my body hurt, and my stomach felt like I had to take the worst shit of my life, but I couldn't take it. You know what I mean? Like it felt like I really had to take a shit. It was going to be a really bad one, but then I was somehow constipated at the same time. And that feeling in your gut is fucking awful. Now, my options, right, for treatment on this was to go to the hospital and have them remove my spleen and my appendix, right? Or this is option 2, rest, oxygen, and electrolytes.
I'd go with option 2.
I chose option 2.
I'm not a doctor.
Right. I am not a doctor. I'm a doctor of the law, but I'm not a doctor of my own body. But I went with option 2, and because I wasn't too keen on the idea of having surgery in New Mexico. And is that me taking a shot at the medical situation in New Mexico? Yes. Yes, it is. I live in Cleveland. I am surrounded by 2 world-renowned hospitals and a really good county hospital at Metro. New Mexico, they may have 1 decent hospital in the whole fucking state. So that's definitely me taking a shot and saying no one's cutting me open here. But it's a miserable experience. Now, as it relates to me, I don't really give a fuck, right? Because I actually went back to New Mexico multiple times and went back to Los Alamos.
And prepared this time, though.
Prepared and dealt with it. But here's the thing. I'm also a dad. I have a 10-year-old daughter. She's got the same trait that I have. I don't want her to ever experience that. So when I saw that you literally wrote cure for sickle cell, I mean, it's jarring because are you telling me that there's a chance that my daughter may never have to experience some of the shit that I have? Because there's other things associated with it that I never understood, that literally only until that experience in New Mexico happened that I got answers to. Like, I suffer from muscle cramps all the time. When I work out, if I go hard and heavy and I sweat a lot, like, or sometimes even if I don't, like, I'm going to have severe muscle cramps where I'm literally just sucking salt out of packets and drinking pickle juice and Gatorade and electrolytes and all that other shit until it stops, and it sucks.
I'm having flashbacks to when we were backing out your floor. And your hand cramped so bad. It hurt me to watch you.
Like, I mean, like my hand curled up, and I'm just like, I can't do anything about it right now, and this does not feel good. So,
a little inside baseball, but it was horrific to watch.
I mean, it sucks. And so, and my daughter right now, and this is about the age when I started to slightly start to experience it, but I didn't know what was really going on because I was a 10-year-old, and at 10, you don't know your body. So all I know is I don't want my daughter to have to go through the shit that I have gone through in my athletic career. I mean, my friends from high school can tell you, like, the same thing that you saw. Like, the guys I play football with saw me go through that every day at practice, right? Where I would literally have to, they would physically have to pick me up and put me in an ice bath, which I've only learned recently that was one of the worst things that they could have done for me at that time. But I don't know, it was fucking football in the 90s in Youngstown. Like, we were not making good medical decisions back then. Okay?
The folks in the medical professionals in New Mexico are going, oh, really? Amherst, Massachusetts?
Right.
Sorry.
Right? I mean, like, between high school and college, right? Like, I mean, it was rough.
Ohio.
Right, Youngstown, Ohio. No, not good. Cleveland, yes, very good. I mean, this is the same place where I literally got hit by a car, and they told me what I needed to do was go take a run and go work out. So, but all that being said, the idea of a cure for something like this, and there's way worse shit out there that we need cures for, between cancer and AIDS and Ebola and everything else. But when you have to deal with something and it sucks, and you got a kid that has the same thing, and there's an opportunity that you may be able to save your kid from that. My reaction to it was, Jim, you better not be fucking with me.
Okay, I was certainly not fucking with you, and I'm not promising the cure is there.
Right.
But Bluebird Bio has, and here's why I really wanted to talk about this. This is not a treatment. If Bluebird Bio is right,
there's a difference between treatment and a cure.
Right?
And that's why I'm just like, bro, I'm not playing the semantics game with you. This better be real.
No. And again, I'm only going off one article, but I saw it. I thought of you. I thought about your New Mexico experience, and I've talked about my friend Tom, who passed away recently. He had a cousin that died. Don't laugh, motherfucker.
No, I'm not laughing at that.
I know.
I'm not. There's something about the New Mexico trip that I left out. But anyway,
go ahead. My good friend, his cousin passed away from sickle cell very suddenly, and I know it disproportionately impacts Black American or Black people. I don't know if it's based on being African American or just I don't know the physiology and why that's the case, but it's an important thing. And what you were saying about there being bigger things or other things to cure, absolutely. But when you, and I'm not saying you made this argument, but when people say, well, why are you doing this when there's bigger things out there? You work on multiple things at once, and this company can possibly really positively impact a lot of lives. So I'm counting on you, Bluebird Bio, to do the right thing.
Look, and who knows? Maybe Bluebird Bio. This is the
well,
start.
This is a Newsweek article, so I'm not.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is just that, that's one of those things that, like, that's hope, right?
Yeah,
that's hope.
Yes.
I mean, people will talk about, like, hopium, and if you could bottle it up and sell it. When you're talking about curing painful diseases that literally kill people and cause them
impact their daily lives. And
right now, here's the thing: I only deal with it when I trigger it at very high altitudes, right? And Los Alamos is at like 7,000 feet above sea level, so that's a high altitude. Or with extreme exercise, right? Now, the extreme exercise is by choice, right? Like, I do that to myself, but I literally have to weigh the pros and the cons. Like, yeah, I could go easier and I could just be a guy that goes on walks and does fucking jazzercise, but, like, I would hate that. So in return, I'm going to push myself to the limits and just deal with the fact that my body happens to lock up and I can't move for 15, 20 minutes at a time, sometimes longer. But to me, that's worth it. But now I'm hearing that there may be a point in time in the not so distant future where I don't have to make that choice anymore and I can work out as hard as I want to and maybe have a way more comfortable experience than what I've had, and my daughter may never have to go through it. That would be something I'd be super excited about.
And that's why it popped into my mind. I do need to throw a quick shout out to my friend, 77-year-old, my friend Ken, climbed 15,000 feet up Mount Kilimanjaro last month. 15,000 feet. He did not make it to the summit, and he was disappointed.
Listen,
but they told him, like, if anything bad happens between here and there, we can't get you out. So we're going to tell you to stop it now. But at 77, he made it to 15,000 feet.
Dude, first of all, when you're talking about climbing mountains, I throw age out the window because anybody who does it, like, I'm just like, you get a whole lot of points with me. But at 77, that's fucking wild, right? Yeah. I mean, because we know people who are younger than myself, right, who just, like, shouldn't go even anywhere near, shouldn't be even at the base of Kilimanjaro.
When he told me he didn't make it to the top, he told me how far he went up. I'm like, I don't think I could have done it. And I'm 20-some years old. Ken's a great friend and a great guy.
And I know I actually couldn't, I literally could not do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Based on what we just talked about. That's right. What I about that.
I mean, at 7,000 feet, like, I literally want to die. Right? And so there's no way I'm making it.
Gatorade's not saving you at 15,000.
Right. Gatorade and the oxygen things I bought at CVS or Walgreens or whatever.
All right, man.
Let me tell you, those things work and came in handy.
Yeah, well,
you cannot travel with them. Learn that hard.
That's right. I forgot about that. But I mean, again, back to that Good Samaritan, weird guy, whatever. Yeah. He saw what he saw, awkward as he wants to be, or awkward as he was.
Yeah.
Thanks for that guy. Did you want to throw in your funny story or no? Or did it?
No, it's fine.
All right. Now back to sort of some sad stuff. One of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time, a fascinating person, one of the most brutal punchers ever, George Foreman, passed away at age 76. And I saw a bunch of George Foreman stuff popping up on my Facebook feed, and I just went, oh no. Mm-hmm. And now I get boxing stuff on my Facebook feed constantly. And you and I have gotten together for, fight night multiple times, including just watching old fights on YouTube. And one fight we need to watch is George Foreman and Ron Lyle. I have never seen it. I've heard about it. Apparently it was legendary. It was two monstrous punchers who knocked each other down multiple times. I think we should watch that fight in the next couple of weeks, just out of respect.
Yeah,
George Foreman is a national treasure.
Yeah, I mean, one, I love watching George Foreman fights because his punches just look devastating, right? And what's funny is that, like, he throws this really powerful punch, but it's almost flat-footed.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, and if you understand the mechanics of boxing, like, your power comes from drive and explosion. And most people, right, like, most people aren't generating a lot of force with flat feet. But there are plenty of punches where you watch George Foreman just throw that, like, vibranium fist out there, and, like, you see it hit the person, and you're like, oh man, that did a lot of damage, right? You could just see like, if it were a video game, you would see the point total just going up over the person's head, the gold coins coming out. Yeah. Because he just, I mean, he had just this just explosive punch that, one, it was faster than you would expect from a person that size. And then when it landed, it always just looked like someone was getting hit with a bag of fucking nickels,
When I remember watching a documentary about the Rumble in the Jungle, which he lost to Muhammad Ali, but this is live footage, or real footage, it's not movie stuff. And he's hitting a heavy bag, and the dent that was left in the heavy bag after every punch was just startling. I mean, just amazing. And when he beat Joe Frazier, I was a big Joe Frazier fan, and I watched their first fight, and it was the most clear example of styles make fights. Because one of my favorite George Foreman lines ever was, he liked to intimidate his opponent. He liked to get in their face and try to make the guy look down first. He said, when I fought Joe Frazier, I didn't do that because I didn't want Joe Frazier to look down and see my knees knocking together because I was that afraid of the guy. And then he goes in there, and Joe Frazier was just tailor-made to lose to George Foreman. In fact, Joe Frazier lost 4 fights in his career, 2 to Muhammad Ali, 2 to George Foreman, and that's it. And both fights against Foreman were just, Frazier's style of, go ahead, hit me, I'll hit you more. And George Foreman said, nah, you're not hitting me more. And the other great thing about him, obviously, he became a celebrity with the grills and everything, but he came back at an advanced age. He returned to the heavyweight, ring at age 38, won a championship. I want to say he was 45 when he knocked out Michael Moorer, and he knocked out the heavyweight champion of the world with a strategy that I've heard Michael Moorer complain that, there was no strategy. Bullshit. George Foreman knew that if I can keep this fight in the middle of the ring, let this guy give me that one shot, and I take advantage of it, I will. And he did. And he became a world champion at, I believe, 45 years of age. He also, by the way, was a U.S. gold medalist, and he won the gold medal in the 68 Olympics, which are famous because that's Mexico City and the John Carlos. Well, I always forget the other guy's name. I'm so sorry. Okay. John Carlos is the name that stands out, but that was the famous, Black Power U.S. Olympic gold medal thing. And George Foreman was actually negatively impacted by the American complaints about that political statement. He was like, I just went to Mexico City. I won you a fucking gold. He didn't say that, but I won you a fucking gold medal, and I'm not getting, appreciated for it. And then he goes on and has a phenomenal career. He also had a change of life. He was a street thug as a young guy. He turned that into a tremendous boxing career. And then he became a preacher. And, he was a really good-hearted, positive figure. And it's sad to see him go.
I think it's interesting. I read a biography about George Foreman. The author escapes me, but it was not an autobiography, but it was a biography. Someone else wrote it about George Foreman. And I read it in the, probably in the middle 2000s, in the 2016s or something like that. But, there was an interesting take about, there was a debate on whether did George Foreman really ever change, or did he sort of just put on a different mask, right? And he was always this sort of very intense, gruff guy, but knew how to sort of shift his, as he got
market himself.
Yeah, but he always sort of had that edge to him, and going back to the fact that he always kept German Shepherds, there were certain things that people would say that would really kind of piss him off, and you could quickly see the old George come out, and it also talked a lot about how he sort of fell in love with fixing old cars, right? And had this amazing sort of car collection that he started to sell towards the end, not for any other reason that he just knew that he was getting older and that the cars had served their purpose. It wasn't about driving the cars, and it wasn't about the, hey, look at me, look what I have. Not even the sort of Jay Leno collecting,
right.
But it was more about finding a car and restoring it and taking it from this sort of rough character into this restored, newfound thing, and doing that over and over again is what really sort of allowed him to evolve, because he understood, he was able to understand it through the sort of rebuilding of these cars, and that's how he rebuilt his own image. And I thought it was a really interesting thing, and it just sort of, obviously his passing makes me think about that. And what I'll say is, what I found, the reality is that my passion for boxing is just greatly diminished, I would say, over the last 10 years, right? And I used to follow it very intensely, through all the different weight classes, heavyweight all the way down to featherweight, and I really enjoyed it. But I think years of not getting the fights you want, years of not having a great American to really follow and get behind. I think the rise of the UFC And I think the sort of, there was no character that I really got to know and that I really enjoyed.
Not even Deontay Wilder?
I mean, my issue with Deontay Wilder was that, I rooted for him, right? But it's just like, hey, man, at some point I need you to, learn to be a boxer.
Right.
Right? And I hate it. I shouldn't say I hate, but I really don't like Tyson Fury. He's a guy that if he wasn't famous, God, you are an awful person. I just don't like your whole vibe. And so Deontay Wilder was his sort of rival, but it was never really a rivalry, right? Deontay Wilder kind of beat him once.
They had a draw the first time, but it was a disputed draw.
Yeah. I mean, it was very shaky, and but you just felt like Wilder was outclassed every time he fought Fury.
Yeah.
And was,
the second two fights went terribly for Deontay Wilder. We watched at least two of them.
No,
together,
we watched both of them. I don't think we watched
maybe not the first one.
Yeah, we didn't watch the first one together. But I mean, and it's just all right. So I got a guy who's American who, he can knock people out, but he's not really a good boxer. And then I've got this gypsy guy who's really obnoxious that I really...
Oh, yeah, he's...
And I know people love that, right? But I'm not the guy who loves the weird guy. I'm sorry. I don't like guys like that. I'm never going to gravitate to that guy. That guy always annoyed me in grade school, high school, college, whatever. And I'm not going to gravitate to him because that's what all the cool kids are doing now. He's obnoxious. I want to see him get knocked out. And so Deontay Wilder fell out of favor with me because it's I need you to evolve as a boxer to be able to beat this guy. And he never did. And just not having a good fighter to get behind and wanting to see win like Canelo, I do, but he doesn't fight enough. And when it's the way boxing promoting is going.
Everything's pay-per-view. Nothing, when Pacquiao fought Mayweather, we ponied up and paid for that.
Yeah.
When Deontay Wilder fought Tyson Fury, we ponied up and paid for that.
Twice.
Fuck, we paid for Jake or whatever fucking Paul fought Mike Tyson, if that was even a fight, that we had to go watch it elsewhere.
Well, we didn't pay for that. That was on Netflix.
Oh, that was on Netflix. All right, that's right. I renewed on Netflix, and then Netflix shit the bed. But no, boxing, it's a sport that I love, and I've lost so much passion for it. And I mentioned my, Facebook feed, just constantly stuff about Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and then their other opponents, and then lots of stuff with Ali, Frazier, and Foreman and Norton. And those guys were all just phenomenal American heavyweight fighters. The last four guys I mentioned, phenomenal American heavyweight fighters. Larry Holmes deserves to get mentioned too. But anyway, I've gone on the rabbit hole a little bit, but rest in peace, George Foreman. You were an American icon, a gold medalist, and I was really sad to see he passed. All right, man, we should wrap this up soon, but I can't decide if I want to be obnoxious or just lob the ball to you, but I'll choose the middle ground and say, as an outsider who is not a Steelers fan, watching this Aaron Rodgers thing unfold is annoying to me because he seems just like, if you want to play the game, play the game. If you don't, but quit being a bitch.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody's really not everyone's thinking from a very self-centered point of view, which is funny because I know it's Aaron Rodgers, who's one of the most narcissistic people on the planet. But the reality is, everyone wants it done just because they want it done because we're all a bunch of impatient assholes. But the reality is, so what if he signs today? What does it affect? There's nothing football-related happening right now. Nothing can even actually start to happen.
So let me ask you, at this point, what is your take on do you want him there or not?
So here's the deal. I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan. I don't like the guy as a person, but he still, even last year playing for the Jets, I still watched him put balls in places that just no one else does, right? Like Josh Allen throws the ball really hard, really far, right? And he can just whip it in there really tight. The difference between him and Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers can put the ball in places, right, that you don't think that the ball can get to, and it doesn't seem like he threw it that hard, but yet somehow it's there right when it needs to be in a place where only his receiver can get it. And if it's Devontae Adams, he usually does get it, and it's still wild to watch. He can't run like he used to. I think we're getting what's happening is Russell Wilson was great at throwing the outside long ball, but not very good at throwing the ball over the middle. Aaron Rodgers is very good at throwing the ball over the middle, but he's not great at throwing the outside long ball. Now, people are going to be like, whoa, blah, 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 blah. Statistically, Aaron Rodgers is not actually that great at throwing the ball deep down the field on the sidelines, where Russell Wilson excelled at that. And so I think what happens is, do I want Aaron Rodgers for the Steelers? The answer is not really. I prefer to just ride it out with Mason Rudolph, draft a rookie. I wouldn't mind Will Howard. I wouldn't mind Jackson Dart. And I wouldn't mind the kid out of Louisville. Jalen Milroe,
that's a guy that I'm really curious about.
I mean, my thing with Jalen Milroe is Justin Fields 2.0. I think, somewhere between Anthony Richardson and Justin Fields is probably where Jalen Milroe is. I like the kid. Here's the reason why I don't really want him as a Steeler fan. We're not great at developing quarterbacks. We've had one quarterback for 18 years in Ben Roethlisberger, who had a lot of different people that came, from Ken Wisenhunt to Mark Whipple to what's his name down in Tampa. He was with the. I'm
going to say Matt Canada.
No, not Matt Canada. Fucking. Oh my God, he was the head coach at Tampa. Now he's like the general manager. He was at Indy for Bruce Arians.
Okay,
Jesus Christ. But he had, Ben Roethlisberger had a lot of different influences that sort of helped to shape Todd Haley at one point in time. We're excluding Matt Canada because he was terrible. But Ben had a lot of different influences. I don't know that there's anybody in the Steeler organization right now that can help to develop a young quarterback like a Jalen Milroe, that the way they need to be developed to get the most out of them, right? Are you going to do what they did for Lamar Jackson and literally fold that offense all around him to his key points, right? And then slowly over time let him evolve and develop. I don't know. They did a similar thing with Josh Allen, and I just don't trust that the Steelers can actually do that. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But I mean,
I want to say something about Jalen Milroe because I heard an interview with him on the NFL Network, and he really impressed me because his passion for football is there. He's, you get some guys that they play football, but he's got that just like Josh Allen. Like, this is what he lives and breathes. He was asked, what do you think got you NFL ready? And he said, look, I've had 3 different offensive coordinators in my career in college. I played at the highest level at Alabama. And for me to speak well of an Alabama player is not a common thing. He also has an apparel line. The kid's making money, like lots of money. Mm-hmm. And he's got business savvy. He's got football IQ. If he falls into the later rounds and the Bills draft him, I'm going to be pretty fucking pumped. I like this kid.
I think the kid's got a lot of potential, and everything you said is correct. The kid is an athletic freak, right? I mean, he ran somewhere between 4.35 and 4.47, which all of that is still fast, especially for a quarterback. Yes. But it's fast for anybody on a football field. He's got a rifle of an arm. The issue with him is with a lot of young quarterbacks is, can you read a defense, right? That's awesome that you can run. That's awesome that you got a cannon. But NFL defenses are very hard to decipher. And can you look at it? Can you look at the entire field and then go back to your backside, understanding that the picture has changed, the safety has moved down, the corner is bailed out, and that linebacker is bumped in, and do you know where to go with the ball? Jalen Milroe right now does not. He doesn't. I watched him. He does not. Okay. He does not know where to go with the football. And probably 50% of the time he has no idea where to go with the football. It's clearly evident.
Alabama has had a few guys who were tremendously successful in college, but you watch highlights and you're throwing to a wide open guy. And it's not his fault that he's got a great offensive line and explosive receivers. You found the guy, you got it there. And that's been a question mark now. Jalen Hurts.
I think
A.J. McCarron, and who was the guy that preceded him?
Yeah, A.J. McCarron wasn't terrible. The issue with A.J.
Wasn't good.
No, actually, A.J. McCarron actually wasn't bad. I think had A.J. McCarron got an opportunity to actually play long enough, he probably would have been fine, right? But he started off behind Carson Palmer, right? And then ultimately
ends up Buffalo for a bit.
And then he kind of like bounced around and was never in a really good situation. But AJ McCarron is a guy that the Bengals wanted to hold on to for a long time. But he desperately wanted to play so bad that I think he's actually still playing in the UFL or whatever.
Really? Okay, did not know that.
But to your point, like you also look at a guy like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had a lot of success in the NFL, I would say.
Yeah, that's fair.
Both Alabama and Oklahoma. But anyway, all that to say, look, I think that Milroe, I think he can be a good quarterback, but I think he's got to go where someone is going to teach him how to be a quarterback, right? And what I mean is how to be able to read defenses and how to know where to go with the ball. You can have all the athletic attributes that you want, but if you can't complete more than 65% of your passes, you are not going to be a successful NFL quarterback, right? And so, you know, the big knock on Anthony Richardson is a little bit more athletic than Jalen Milroe, but he can't complete more than 50% of his passes, and he is either going to have to switch positions or very quickly learn how to read a defense if he wants to stay in the NFL.
All right, so let's wrap this up with a one-word question. I'll act like you're in testimony to Congress. If you found out the Steelers could get Aaron Rodgers, all other feelings aside, yes or no?
Yeah, I'll absolutely take him. I'll take him, and I really don't have a problem with it. They don't need a decision from him until the draft, right?
That's true. That's fair.
There's no need to get a decision from him until the draft. Now, draft comes, the day before the draft, it's like, are you in or you're out? Because if you're out, then I'm going to draft one way. If you're in, I may draft a little bit different. Right? If you're in, then I may take a quarterback in the fourth. If you're out, then I may take a quarterback in the third. Right? Like, whatever. But either way, I'm drafting a quarterback, so that shouldn't really change your decision. It's just where
not a quarterback in the first? No. If you don't get Rodgers, you're not taking Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart in the first?
Fuck no.
Okay.
Fuck no. First of all, I'm taking a D lineman in the first no matter what. I don't have a second-round pick, so then in that third round is where the debate becomes between running back and quarterback, and it really depends on what the situation is at quarterback. So if I've got Aaron Rodgers, then I'm taking a running back in the third. If I don't have Aaron Rodgers, then I'm taking probably, whoever's there, Milroe, Dart, the kid from Louisville, one of these other guys. Like, I'm taking them in the third, and then I'm taking my running back in the fourth. I'll take Rodgers. Now, the question, if you really wanted to perplex me, would be, should the Steelers trade for Kirk Cousins? And the answer to that is just no. I think he's done. Now, maybe it's hypocritical to say because, Cousins just, the way he faded at the end of last season gave me a lot of pause. Whereas Aaron Rodgers was really starting to get into his own at the end of the season. So I think Aaron Rodgers' issues early in the season, where he was still recovering from his Achilles, he started to really get better, and then so that Achilles is better, so I think you get a better start from him out of the starting blocks. Kirk Cousins, the junction where he started to fall apart towards the end of the season, it's hard to say if it was fatigue, if he wasn't fully recovered from the Achilles. Was there some sort of other injury going on? Is it in his head? I don't know, but I don't know what Kirk Cousins' issues are, but I just feel better about where Aaron Rodgers is physically and mentally in the game than Kirk Cousins, so I'm going with Aaron Rodgers. And if I don't get him, I'm also fine with riding with Mason Rudolph.
Thank you for that one-word answer.
I gave you the one-word answer, and then I kept going.
We're at Whiskey Congress on X and Instagram. Thanks, we're done.